All right, the day is here. We have all of the Google Pixel 10 phones here in front of us. Now, obviously, we don't have the Pro Fold. We don't have like the watch and all that stuff. It's coming out in October. But as far as the primary Pixel 10 lineup, we have the Pixel 10 Pro XL, Pixel 10 Pro, and the standard Pixel 10, a couple of cases, and even the handy dandy Pixel 9 here, so that we can kind of compare size and shape and all that kind of stuff, because obviously those things are pretty similar. But yeah, without any further ado, let's get in these boxes. So we'll get started with the standard Pixel 10. Now the colors that I got for this video, it looks like we got Frost on the Pixel 10, Porcelain on the Pixel 10 Pro, but honestly, those are just both white. But it looks like, I mean, I don't know, it may just be the boxing, but we'll see when we get them out. It looks like the Pixel 10 is like white, whereas the Pixel 10 Pro is almost like a, I don't know, like a yellowish kind of off-white color. And then I'm really happy we got the Moonstone with the Pixel 10 Pro XL. And it's one of the new colors for the Pro line. The Pro line's got these really muted colors. So I'm going to be referencing my Chromebook a lot because stats with phones, for whatever reason, my brain just doesn't tend to retain those quite as much. I think because of just the utilitarian part of a phone. It's like, hey, this is the new thing, and it's just going to get the job done. With Chromebooks, I think all these little stats matter a little bit more, and so I memorize them pretty easily. But I've got my stats and specs pulled up on both of these. So with the Pixel 10, there's an indigo color, which we get to fill out these forms and say, hey, this is the color I want. That's the color I asked for, but we're down the totem pole a little bit on this stuff. The indigo is that like really blue looking one, and then you've got Frost, Lemongrass, which is the kind of yellowish, maybe slight bit green, and then Obsidian, which is the other name for their black color. And then with the Pros, you get Moonstone, which is this one, and then you get the Jade, which is like this off-green color. You get Porcelain, which is the kind of off-white, and then Obsidian, which is the probably, I think that they called this one Obsidian as well. So this is the Pixel 9 Pro XL. I think it's very similar in color to this phone as well. So that's it for the colors. Let's start with the Pixel 10, and because ultimately we're going to unbox these just so you can kind of see them, see what's in the box, that kind of stuff. But ultimately, what I want to point out with all three of these phones is what makes them different from one another. So as you're going to buy them and you're looking at comparing prices, because we start at $799 here and go all the way up to, I think it's $1099, I think is for the Pro XL. Nope, it looks like $1199. So there's a pretty wide price margin here. And so, you definitely want to look at the things that you need and the things that matter to you in a phone. They're all Pixels. They all have the same Tensor G5 inside. They all have plenty of RAM. It's 12 gigs of RAM for the regular Pixel 10, and then it goes up to 16 for the Pro models. And these two, the Pixel 10 and the Pixel 10 Pro, start at 128 gigs of storage and go up from there. And then the Pro XL starts at 256 and goes up. You can get up to a terabyte of storage in these guys, the Pros. And so there's just things you need to think about as far as like when you walk into that carrier, you walk into T-Mobile or Verizon or something, you need to know like, hey, these are the things I'm willing to compromise on to save a little bit of money. I want a bigger screen, or I don't want a bigger screen, or I want better cameras or less cameras, or whatever the case may be. I want to make sure that you walk away from this video, at least know the differences between the three, especially with the 10 and the 10 Pro. Honestly, in the hand, probably aren't going to look that different. So let's get started with the 10. All right, here we go. Slide these to the side. And the boxing is very similar to what we've had for the last, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 versions, I think, of the Pixels. I know for sure last year, like this is pretty identical. And kudos to Google a little bit for doing that. Like where cell phones are right now, iteration is kind of the name of the game, and adding in new features and new hardware abilities that just make the user experience a little bit better. That's really what we're after here. And I think it's what most people want. Having a brand new looking phone every year just isn't all that important. Let's see what we get up here. Probably a SIM card tool, if I had to guess. Nope. A little bit of instructions and paperwork, all the normal stuff. There's the phone there. And as you can see, incredibly similar to the Pixel from last year. Get our charging cable. Oh, that's right. Of course, there's no SIM tool. These don't have SIM trays in them for the first time this year. So it is eSIM only this time around. So I used to work at Sprint back when it was, they didn't have SIM cards at Sprint. And so I was always frustrated with that because having to move someone's service meant I had to like interact with customer service. You don't have to do that with eSIMs. The phone can kind of take care of that for you. But I always liked having SIM cards after having that job because I liked being able to be like, okay, I got this phone, pop the SIM card out, pop it in here and move on. So I've not even really messed with eSIMs yet, but I will be forced to this time around. Let's see. And again, I appreciate having some materials that feel like they're probably recycled and recyclable. That's always good with these unboxings instead of all the plastic stuff that is probably not good for the environment. So just like last year, we got the same kind of matte finish on the rails with the Pixel 10. So the Pixel 9 did this as well. And then a gloss finish on the back. Is it just me? Yep, the G's a little bigger this year. I felt like that was the case when I saw them during the event. The G's a little bit bigger this year on the back, which is a fine addition, I think. It looks nice, really clean, but nice glossy plastic, and then matte finish on the metal rails here. You've got your speaker and mic ports down here, and USB Type-C, charging, same volume, power button. As always, the buttons feel great, nice and clicky. You got some microphones and antenna arrays up here. Pretty standard. It's a good looking color. It almost has a bluish look to it. So the whole frost thing, I think I'm going to be right here. I think the porcelain's going to be more of a warm white versus this is kind of the cooler white. Like almost very blue looking, at least under these lights. So that's a good looking color. I do think the Pixel 10 got better colors than the 10 Pro. So yeah, let me get this thing powered up a little bit, and then we'll start in on the 10 Pro and 10 Pro XL. Okay, so I've got it basically kind of set up, not really, just logged in enough to kind of take a look at the screen. And again, Google has been just crushing it with screens. Yeah, I don't know what the DxOMark is cameras, but there's companies that just like evaluate screens, and Google has said that theirs is the best screen on a smartphone, and smartphone screens are just great. This is clearly an awesome one. The 120 hertz is super smooth. The colors look amazing. It looks great off angle and any angle. Like Pixel screens have been great for, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 years now. Like not just really good, but just great. Gone are the days of the Pixel 2 and the blue shifting screens and all that kind of crap. Like Google knows how to make smartphones now. This thing's gorgeous. It picks up right where the Pixel 9, Pixel 9a left off as far as build quality. The haptics feel a little more punchy this time around. I will say that, like all the little movements, like when I, kind of flick up to the launcher here, like the little thump you get, it does feel a little bit, I don't know, more sturdy. Not that the haptics have ever been bad on Pixel phones either, but that feels like a little bit of an upgrade. But let me talk about real quick some of the specs on this, some of the main ones. So 6.3 inch screen. I think everybody and their brother knows that, but 20:9 aspect ratio. So importantly, this is a 1080 by 2424 at 422 pixels per inch. So that's a little bit less resolution than the Pro at the same screen size. I promise you're not going to be able to tell the difference in that. This one gets to 2,000 nits and then has a 3,000 nit peak brightness. So if you're out in the sun or something, it sees where you really need that brightness. So it'll bump up to 3,000. These two have a peak brightness of 2,200 and 3,300 peak brightness and a standard peak brightness of 2,200. So relatively speaking, these are the same types of screens. They both have Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on them. And they both get up to 120 hertz. The difference is with the Pro models, you actually get a 1 to 120 hertz refresh rate that can kind of bounce around and be dynamic for you. That saves you a little bit of battery. So if you're just reading or something and you're sitting still, it can go all the way down to one refresh per second, which obviously saves you battery. The standard Pixel can only go from 60 to 120. So again, are these things going to change the fundamental way that you use the phone? Probably not. So I don't think the screen or the color of the screen or the brightness of the screen or the refresh rate of the screen is something that you would say, oh, I need to spend the extra few $100s to upgrade to the Pixel 10 Pro or the Pro XL for that matter. All right, so let's move on and pop open the Pixel 10 Pro. And, you know, again, I'll keep saying iteration. I mean, this is super duper iteration. Some of the things that you're going to get on these phones, I think are going to come down to, and we're going to have to do a review, obviously, for this. But some of the stuff's going to come down to Tensor 5. Tensor 5 is a lot faster than G4. So, you know, they've moved to TSMC for their fabrication process. And, you know, the scores I've seen online put it right up around like a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, which I've gotten some devices that I've tested. Crazy fast processor. And obviously the neural processing on these things is going to be really good. So all of your AI capabilities that you have now, the next Pixel drop that comes and all this stuff that's going to show up, I can't test all that stuff sitting here opening these phones up right now. But a lot of that stuff's going to move down to Pixel 9 as well. So, you know, when we talk about iteration with these phones, yeah, it's going to be hard to tell the difference between them. But if you're looking for maybe a little bit better gaming performance, a little bit better performance on like really heavy duty things, I think you're going to get a little bit of an update in the Tensor G5. A lot of the other things are going to stay relatively the same. And I think we're going to see most of the things that they roll out on Pixel 10 first showing up at least on Pixel 9 pretty quickly. And if not, that would be kind of a lame move from Google because, I mean, honestly, these phones aren't that wildly different from last year. And again, I don't know that that's that bad of a thing. But yeah, here's the 10 Pro, and we go back to the shiny sides. And this to me, in my eye, in here, just looks straight up white versus, now we can kind of hold that one up. That looks really, really blue. Joe said it might be purple. I'm a little red-green colorblind, so it'd be weird for it to be purple. Like, I didn't think Frost was purple. Maybe it is, I don't know. But yeah, this is just white. This looks incredibly elegant, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, this looks fantastic. I'm a sucker for white phones usually anyway. I love the gloss finish, like the matte finish glass on the back, and then that shiny G, and then the shiny rails. I do feel like shiny rails are a little more grippy. So if you're a non-case guy or gal, yeah, shiny rails, I feel like you can just really grip the thing, whereas this is a little bit more slick. Most people put a case on their phone. So the main difference you're gonna see between these two is not size. They're the exact same size as you get the extra sensor up here, which is the temperature sensor. So you can like test the temperature on you know, objects. You can test the temperature on human beings, all that kind of stuff. But again, we talked about the screen differences here, a little bit more resolution. So specifically, the resolution is 1280 by 2856, and again 1 to 120 hertz refresh rate. The extra sensor on back. We'll talk about cameras here in just a minute. But overall, when you hold these two phones, they just don't feel that different, and they're really not that different. It's not like you're getting some big nasty bezels on this one and this one's, you know, edge to edge. They're very, very similar in a lot of ways, and so I'll get this one powered on real quick, and just so we can at least see these screens kind of side by side because they are so similar, and then we'll move on to the Pro XL. All right, so now I've got the 10 Pro already, and interestingly, when I got the 10 Pro set up, I skipped through most of it. It launched in at 120 hertz, which is Google's smooth display setting. The Pixel 10 was set by default to have that turned off. I think that's just an interesting play to make it almost look like, ooh, look how much nicer this one is. But once I've got them both set, I mean, there's just not really any physical difference. Like holding these phones in my hand, I would have a hard time if you handed me these phones like this and said, hey, I'm not going to tell you which one's which. You just put them in your hand and you navigate for a minute and tell me which one you think is the 10 and the 10 Pro. I don't think there's any way that I would be able to discern the difference between the two of them very quickly. I could open the cameras and look through megapixel settings and stuff like that pretty quickly. I'm just saying, like, general navigation, holding them, quality, that kind of stuff. And obviously you've got the matte versus the other rails, but in a case, I just don't know that you'd be able to tell the difference in the two of them. And so it's important to note. We're going to, again, talk through camera specs and stuff like that here in just a minute. Interestingly enough, the battery is actually a little bit bigger on the Pixel 10. It's not a huge amount, but I want to get you the exact numbers here. So you have 4970 battery in the Pixel 10, and then the Pixel 10 Pro, 4870. So 100 extra milliamp hours. That's nice, and that probably will offset that 60 to 120 hertz versus the 1 to 120 hertz that you have in the Pro. I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make, but you do get a slightly bit larger battery in the standard Pixel 10. All right, now on to the big fella. And again, I've been carrying, mainly in preparation for this, I've been back and forth between the 9 Pro XL and the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5. I still have my 5. And for the last, I don't know, 6 weeks, I've been back on the 9 Pro XL. So I'm not expecting to feel much difference in this device and that device. I think they're the exact same size, from what I understand. Yeah, I mean, you can see those bad boys side by side. Other than the color, I mean, the camera modules are in the exact same space. Like, I would almost bet. Where'd my case go? Oh, it's right here. So here's my 9 Pro Spigen case. Oh, the camera module's just off. You can see it. It's just not quite there. It's probably a little bit bigger. But the physical dimensions around the sides, it would have worked. But yeah, you gotta change it up just enough, right? So that people have to buy new accessories. But yeah, this is the Moonstone color, and yeah, I like that a lot. It reminds me like there was the hazel from last year that wasn't very hazily. It was like this like slate gray kind of looking. This is that with more of a bluish tint to it instead. But those are really cool looking rails. Yeah, this is a really cool colorway. And yeah, it just feels like my 9 Pro XL, which is not a bad thing. This is a great feeling phone. I've really enjoyed using it. And now in my mind, I'm looking at this going, okay, a little bit of an upgrade in the camera hardware, you know, a big upgrade in the performance hardware. So, you know, when I'm talking about playing like 3D games, Call of Duty, that kind of stuff, I think this chip is going to perform. Like every once in a while, I get a little bit of a stutter on the Pixel 9 Pro XL, and it's what makes me want to kind of maybe think about going back over to my Z Fold. But I don't think that's going to be a problem with this guy. And, you know, all the on-device AI stuff that Google's touting, I'm looking forward to some of those things. But ultimately, this is going to be a very, very familiar experience, I think. All right, so like the others, got this set up, and it's a Pixel. At the end of the day, you know, the display looks amazing. Phone feels great. I really do like this Moonstone color. We're going to talk about cases here in just a second as well. But I thought this a good time with the larger phone in my hand to talk about one or two of the bigger differences and maybe the reason that ultimately you might go for the larger phone this time around. Now, for some people, like I know Joe, doesn't like to use this larger size phone. He likes the 6.3 inch phone. It works better. And I will say, like, you know, for someone like me holding this, I can type one-handed because I can reach all the way across the screen. So the smaller size is nice for that. But ultimately, when it comes down to like watching content and again playing games, I like to play a handful of games on my phone. The extra screen real estate is what kind of sells me. But this year, the XL version of the Pixel 10 is actually has a couple upgrades that the other phones don't get. And so specifically, it comes down to battery. So the larger phone has a 5200 milliamp hour battery now, but it also gets better fast charging specs. So we can actually do a 45 watt USB-C charging as long as you have a charger that does so. Google sells it, but you can find all kinds of ones that have enough power to push that kind of wattage. But then your Pixel Snap wireless charging, we haven't talked about that yet. We're going to talk about Pixel Snap in just a second. But your Qi 2 wireless charging on the XL version actually goes up to 25 watts versus 15 watts on the other two. Now, all three have Pixel Snap, so they have the ability to use all of those magnetic accessories that Apple has kind of built out over the years. And MagSafe, honestly, is one of those things that I would applaud Apple for. Like, yeah, I can be anti-Apple about a lot of things, but you know, they get some stuff right and they push the industry forward in certain ways. And Qi 2 having it's not MagSafe, but having the magnet built into the spec for the standard is all thanks to Apple doing it and making it popular. And there being just a boatload of accessories and wallets and chargers and cases and car mounts and you name it. There's all kinds of stuff, little stands, all those things that are part of this whole MagSafe movement of phone accessories. And now, you know, Google wasn't very shy about that. They said, you know, all those accessories are going to work on Pixel Snap. So they had to brand it because you got to brand everything, right? MagSafe is Apple's brand version of this. And so I put all these three here now to tell you, like, looking at them, the screens look awesome on all three. The build quality looks awesome on all three. testing stuff like some of the new software, testing some of the new things that they dropped for Gemini and AI. Those are kind of even moving targets now. I mean, in a month, some of those things will change. Some of that stuff will go to older phones, some of it won't. But I can tell you one other primary difference in all three of these phones comes down to the camera sensors. And again, this is a bunch of specs, so I'm going to read those so I don't get them wrong. So our rear cameras, with the Pixel 10, you start with a 48 megapixel wide angle camera, and then you go a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and then a 10.8 megapixel telephoto lens, and it's a 5x lens. On the Pro cameras, everything's the same on these. So 50 megapixel primary wide angle camera shooter, 48 megapixel ultra wide. And to me, that makes a huge difference because I don't really understand the idea of going wider, so taking in more of an image and then reducing the pixel count. I've never understood this. And so you're actually staying pretty close from the primary and the ultra wide from a megapixel standpoint as far as how much detail you can catch. So having that ultra wide with tons of megapixels is really enticing. So 48 megapixel on the ultra wides, and then still 48 megapixels on the telephoto. It is a 5x optical zoom, but because of the AI and all that kind of stuff, again, things that we'll have to test. Both of these phones get the 100x super res zoom versus the 20x that the Pixel 10 gets. And so those are things you need to know. And it changes too with the front cameras as well. So the front cameras on the Pro models get 42 megapixel front facing shooters at a 2.2 aperture and 103 wide angle. So it's considered ultra wide field of view. On the Pixel 10, you're getting a 10.5. That's not bad. 10.5 megapixel shooter, 2.2 aperture, but 95 degree ultra wide view. So you're getting a wider view with much more detail on the front selfie camera on the Pros. So when it comes to camera hardware across the board in every lens and every capacity, the Pros really outshine the Pixel 10. So if you're like, man, taking pictures is the most important thing that I do with my phone, it matters more to me than anything else. If you like the smaller phone, obviously go with the Pixel 10 Pro. And then if you're like, hey, I'd like maybe the option for more RAM and then more storage and faster charging and a bigger battery and all the camera upgrades, obviously the Pixel 10 Pro XL is where you want to go. So finally, before we get out of here, I want to show off these cases. It looks like we got the white case for the 10 and the 10 Pro. They are the exact same size. So you can buy one case for either one. Nope, it is not white. So this must be the frost. So I guess the frost is, I don't know, what are you thinking, purple? You going purple? Light purple maybe? I don't know. Sorry for being colorblind. Can't help it. But you can see, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Can you see the circle in there? It's so light. Like if I tilt it just right, I can see the circle. So obviously there is a magnet or a metal embed in here that'll let those Pixel Snap accessories pass from this through the plastic and into the phone. Let's give that case. Oh yeah, that fits real nice. And Google's first party cases the last couple of years have been real sweet. Like they're great. You're gonna get some drop protection with it, but they have just a really soft, grippy kind of feel to them. I do love that. Man, that's a good looking case. But we can also pop it over on. It's got a grip. There we go. And we're gonna go on the 10 Pro here. And it fits in there just snug, just like that. And because of the way it covers basically every part of the phone, to be honest, it doesn't really matter what color your phone is. You could buy a different case and kind of get away with the look and feel of a different color if maybe the one that you want's not in stock or something like that. So that's the case there. And then pretty sure this is the Moonstone. That should match up with our XL here. Yep. They did a good job of color matching this stuff too. It's like a light color on the inside, but it's like that velvety, like a crushed velvet on the inside. It's very nice feeling. And obviously, first party case fits like a glove. Great click on the buttons. Yeah, feels great. Nice and grippy. That's what you love to see, but thin enough that it doesn't completely change the profile of the phone. So yeah, I love these cases, and obviously these are Pixel Snap ready, so all your stuff's gonna go right on there. We don't have any of that stuff. Like I've not collected any MagSafe accessories because making them work on phones and buying a case. And I had a pretty bad experience trying to do that, like buy cases with the magnet on the back and try to make those things work, alignment issues, all that stuff. All that's out the window. I will be looking at some MagSafe stuff, maybe like a wallet, charging brick, that kind of stuff, some kickstands, mounts for the car, all that kind of stuff. It's all open. It's all fair game now if you're a Pixel fan. And I think Pixel Snap might be one of the biggest reasons for people to upgrade. Like if you're coming from an 8 specifically and maybe weren't sold on the 9, but now you're ready to move up, like the 10 is a great move for someone that's got a Pixel 7 or Pixel 8. But if you got a Pixel 9 and you've got that thing paid off, or you're just ready for an upgrade and want a little bit more horsepower maybe, and you really want that accessory lineup with the Pixel Snap stuff, I think the Pixel 10 could be a good fit for you. But I need to spend a lot of time with these. Joe needs to spend time with them. I'm going to force him to get on camera, I think, for the review too, and kind of give his 2 cents on the Pixel 10 Pro as we talk about the Pixel 10 Pro XL as well. And one of us, likely me, will drive the Pixel 10 as well. And I'm going to be honest with you, other than the screen size for me, I don't think I would notice that much difference. I did the Pixel 9a for a little while, and it was fine. It was a Pixel. If you like Pixel experiences, you're going to get those across the board here. And again, I hope that some of the details that we shared here as we kind of went through these unboxings will help you make a purchasing decision as these things start to become readily available and you're really starting to think about in the fall updating your phone and making those upgrades. I hope some of this information's helpful to you, and keep an eye out. We'll definitely be doing reviews of each of these phones as well, and then hopefully getting our hands on the Fold, the 10 Fold that's coming out, and the Pixel Watch, and the new Pixel Buds 2a. So Google's got a lot of cool hardware coming out. We're excited for it. I know you guys are excited for it, but that's it for this one. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up, head down there, hit that subscribe button, and be sure to ring the notification icon as well if you'd like to be alerted when we make future videos just like this one. Until next time, we'll see you.